You're watching Public Affairs. Berkowitz is my name, and politics is our game. And we're going to be doing lots of politics and public policy this evening, because I have as a guest a guy who's a good Irish Southsider, and South Side of Chicago. And surprisingly, he's a Republican, because people always say if you're South Side Irish from Beverly, you're going to be a Democrat. But he's not. He's a Republican. And if you're South Side Irish from Beverly, you're going to settle down in Beverly, where all those guys did. You guys, you started out here and you stayed here, and you Bridgeport and around there, right? But no, he went to Barrington. So Speaker Mike Madigan called him into his office when he became a state senator. He said, I don't understand. What's a guy like you, South Side Irish, Beverly, what are you doing as a Republican? What are you doing, living up in Barrington? So I ask you, State Senator Dan Duffy, you've been there for 4 years. Did Speaker Mike Madigan, did he get his answer?
Yes, I told him, very clearly that, the reason why I'm a Republican and the reason why I live in Barrington is because I started my own business and I learned right from wrong.
And so you think, are you being serious? You don't think Democrats know right from wrong? Only Republicans? Are you that partisan?
No,
you're
I'm being
kidding.
Sarcastic.
Yeah.
I was being sarcastic to the speaker. And actually, he enjoyed it.
But it is something. But you started your own business, is that right?
Yes, I did. I started my own business 20 years ago, a computer consulting company.
And does that tend to make people Republicans? Would you say that seriously, on average? If you start a business, if you grow a business, if you're entrepreneurial, if you're a believer in the free market, number one, are you all of those things?
Yes. And I would say, it's difficult
And if you are all of those things, does that tend to make you a Republican?
I think it tends to. I wouldn't say every small business owner is a Republican, but I would say people who believe in free enterprise, people that are developing a business and creating jobs, people that want lower taxes, less regulation, less litigation, those people do, I think, tend to be Republicans.
Well, do they know how to fix things? Because if you started a business and you were sent to Springfield, and that was 4 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. And there was a lot wrong. People probably said they knew there was a pension mess at that time. Mm-hmm. They certainly know it's true now. And so were you sent down in Springfield to clean up the pension mess? And what have you done? Or free market, we give our guests, you can answer one or two questions. What have you done to fix the pension mess? Or what would you do if you were king and you had the power?
If I was Mike Madigan?
If you were Mike Madigan or you were Senate President Cullerton,
right.
One of the power, not one of the mushrooms, right?
Right.
We'll get back to why you're a mushroom. But seriously, if you had the power, right. Let's take that one. What would you do right now? We're taping this on June 27th. Say you were the governor. Could you go down there? Could you say, here's what I want you guys to do in the House and the Senate, pass this legislation, this is what it should look like, and by golly, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to be banging heads until you do it. Mm-hmm. Now just describe, if you were the kind of guy to do that. Mm-hmm. Quinn apparently isn't. Mm-hmm. He had a proposal, but then he went home. I don't know. Governor Quinn, come on and you can tell us and defend yourself and say, didn't really do that.
Right.
So you're the governor now, and what would that legislation look like that you propose in terms of modifying or that you propose as pension reform? What would it look like?
First off, that question is a great question, and there's a lot that could be done that's not being handled right now. First off, by convening session, by letting us go from session without addressing the pension problem is unbelievable. It's almost criminal to let us go home without addressing the pension problem. Right now in the state of Illinois, as of today, our money, our debt, because of the pension problem is compounding $12.6 million every day, or $525,000 every hour. We're adding new pension debt onto our current debt because we haven't addressed that problem.
How much is our current debt?
Our pension, we're $83 billion in debt in unfunded pension
So
liability.
if you want it to be run actuarially correct, statistically correct, as an independent person might advise you, they would say your funds for the pensions that you're going to be obligated to pay should have $83 billion more in there right now than they have.
Right.
Is that what it is?
Absolutely.
And so what would you do? What are you going to do to fix that if you were king? How would you do it?
The first thing you need to do is you need to cap pensions. So right out of the gate, I would cap pensions at $110,000 a year. The second thing we need to do is we need to stop double dipping. Double dipping, as you know, is that many people in the state of Illinois receive multiple pensions. There's 5 state public pension programs in the state of Illinois, and many people receive multiple pensions.
So you just say elect one and that's all.
Pick a pension and go with it.
So if you're a legislator, just hypothetically, they're in one pension, but the judges are in that same pension, right? So you could go from being a legislator to being a judge, and you only get one pension, right?
Right. The legislators are one pension, the judges are in another pension.
Oh, they're another one. So if
Yeah,
you're a
so-
legislator and you become a judge, you will have a legislative pension and you will have a judge pension.
Right.
And you're saying, under your policy, you would say, okay, you're a legislator, you want to be a judge, that's fine, you can get paid for that, but you get no additional pension.
No, you already have a pension.
You already have it.
So why should you be offered another pension? When
And the judge
when
would say to you, the person getting appointed as judge says, well, Joe Blow here, he was a factory worker and he had
Right.
another pension. He became a judge
Right.
and he gets a pension.
Right.
So why should he get something that I don't get? He's got two, and why should I have two?
It's
I mean, fair is fair.
Absolutely, and that it's apples to oranges when you compare public pensions to private pensions. The public sector can give out as many pensions as they want to individuals and pay as much as they want.
Which the private sector can do that. I think it's
I'm
just
sorry,
public.
the private sector. Yes, the private sector can give out as much as they want and pay as much in a pension as they want because it's private money. It's not taxpayer
And
funded money.
they're accountable to their shareholders.
That's correct.
Or their individual owners.
Correct.
They're not accountable to taxpayers.
No,
You are accountable to taxpayers.
right.
You're a legislator.
That's right.
So you think the taxpayers may not want that, so we just policy is one pension, that's all.
That's what I
All
believe.
right. So, but that doesn't do much to fix the $83 billion
Well,
problem.
that does a lot. And then, of course, one of the biggest problems we have to look at is the COLA, the cost of living adjustment.
Okay.
Because right now pensions are compounded. People, from the time they retire,
COLA stands for cost of living. C
adjustment.
for cost, O for of, L for living, A for adjustment.
That's right.
I want to keep it simple here, Sesame
That's good.
Street type.
That's right.
Because, there's a misnomer, because right now, the COLA is, in the state of Illinois, if you're a state employee, I think it's the case, you get 3% a year adjustment, no matter what. Inflation could be 0.5%, it could be 2%. It doesn't adjust for inflation, it just gives you a perk. You get 3% a year.
right, from the time you retire to the time you die.
Right. And it's compounded.
It's compounded, and which is one of the major problems because it
And
continues
compounded means?
that interest continues to double every time. I mean,
What it means is that if you get, say you had $30,000 as a pension, and you had 3% a year increase under the current system, that would be $900 a year, no matter what. Inflation could be 0.5%, you're going to get $900 more.
Right.
And then next year, when you get your 3% increase, it's not 3% of 30,000, it's 3% of 30,000 plus the 900 that went up.
so if
So
you're
it's compounded, and that's why compounding is nice if you're on the receiving end, but if you're on the paying end, not so good.
right. So if a teacher retired in 1995 at 65,000, that would now today in 2012 would be over $100,000.
That person would have a $100,000
That's right.
pension, which would be way more than that person was ever earning. Because I think usually for teachers you max out at about 75%. So roughly if you had like a $90,000, let's make it simple. If you had a $100,000 salary your last 3 or 4 years, you would max out at about 75%. That's your max pension. So you retired, say, we'll change your hypothetical to 75,000, okay? And in your hypothetical, you went from 65 to 100 in how many years?
From 1995 to now.
All right,
so
10 years or
10
so.
years, yeah.
Same way here, you'd probably go from 75, I was making it simple for 100,000, you'd go from 75 to 110. And again, the point is you're making way more in a short amount of time than you ever made in the job.
Right.
And so how many people now who have private pensions, how many of you out there watching this show, okay? Number one, almost none of you have a defined benefit. You had maybe a 401k. But most of you watching this show, unless you're like 120 years old, you don't have a defined benefit, right?
The private sector got rid of pensions a long time ago. Look at U.S. Steel.
They got rid of the defined benefits.
Right.
You have a 401k and so forth.
Right.
Okay, so if you're a teacher, you get a defined benefit, and the main thing is your defined benefit is set up now to, in a short amount of time, it will way exceed anything you're making.
That's right.
So it's ludicrous, and yet we're told the average pension is about 30,000. Maybe it is. Is that right?
The average teacher's pension is 46,000. So I don't want to.
So average teacher's pension is 46,000.
Right.
It's not 30,000. It's 46,000.
It's 46, and I don't want to pick on teachers because teachers aren't the ones. Teachers have put into their pension.
I don't
They
know.
paid their
Let's
money.
pick on teachers. I mean,
I
everybody either says they got a mom who was a teacher, they got a favorite teacher. That could all well be. But these are people who basically work at best 8 months a year, 6 hours a day.
See, I don't know.
8 months a year, 6. No. No. So when somebody's making 100,000 or 90,000 for 8 months, if you adjust it, it's like 130,000. No, it is a well-paid profession. It is a unionized profession. The whole idea of a union is to raise the wage above the market wage. Now, I'm not saying that's bad or wrong, but if you only wanted to get the market wage, you wouldn't need the union.
I know.
So a teachers' union does what? They restrict the number of teachers so these people can get more than they would otherwise get in a competitive system. Do you agree, Dan?
I think that the teachers are.
It's a slight digression, but do you agree?
I think the teachers are taking a lot of flack right now that it's kind of undeserved because of people like Speaker Madigan and legislative leaders that have been taking money out of the savings funds and out of the teachers' funds for years and diverting it to other programs. So that's a problem.
Okay, but we're sort of getting off track, and I'm causing that.
Right.
Okay, but so what you would do is you would adjust the COLA.
Yes.
And the state Senate passed legislation at the end of May, at the end of your regular session. And I think Senate President John Cullerton told me, press conference right after, when John Cullerton says something, I listen, and more often than not, he's being honest. You can disagree with him or not, but I think John Cullerton tries to say things that are accurate and truthful. I think he said 16 Democrats voted for that. They needed 30 votes and 14 Republicans. Does that sound right?
Sounds about right.
Bipartisan, okay? Passed the Senate. Did you vote for that?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so it got the 30 votes, but it didn't pass the House. It didn't even get called by the House, right?
Of course not, and it's not going to be called by the House.
But the point is, that legislation adjusted the COLA, right? For only two funds.
Right.
How did it adjust the COLA?
You know what? What he was doing is adjusting it down. I think it was 2%.
It was, right now, the COLA is a misnomer, as you're saying, because it's 3% no matter what.
The bill was ridiculous.
But was it ridiculous?
Yeah, it was.
In fact, you said that. You said the bill was a joke?
I said the bill was a joke.
Let's see if we can get that graphic. We want to get that quote right. Dan Duffy, this is how he makes friends, wins friends, and influences people. Senate President Cullerton, I'm sure, loved it when you told him the legislation he sponsored that he just passed. Would you walk up to him and say, it's a joke?
No. It was, what happened was, when we were debating the bill on the Senate floor.
Excuse me, Senator. If there's any way I can get my crack staff to bring up that graphic. Dan Duffy, there we go. Duffy calls Cullerton pension legislation a big joke. Did we get that right, Dan?
Yes, you did. And that was during debate.
And Senate President Cullerton, I didn't say that. Dan Duffy said, I don't want to get in trouble with you.
Yeah. No, and I said that during debate, not after the bill was voted for. And I said all along I was going to support that bill.
You said that during the debate?
Yes, I did.
Okay, not after.
No. To President Cullerton when we were debating the bill.
And why is it a big joke?
The reason why the bill is a joke is because it's kind of set up as a farce of a bill saying that it's going to be pension reform for the state of Illinois when it doesn't address the other three pensions in the state of Illinois. So what happens every year down in Springfield, as you know, sometimes they come up with these bills and they label them as reform to make people think that they're changing and they're reforming when actually it doesn't do much at all. So if we
because it only dealt with two funds. If it had dealt with all five funds, then
the smallest fund.
But you voted for it.
Yes, I did, because
even though it's a joke, you voted for it.
I did vote for it because it is pension reform, but it's such a small, minuscule amount. Like I said in debate,
it's a baby step. It's a baby step.
It's not even the tip of the iceberg. Now, knowing perfectly well that this bill was not going to go to the House because Speaker Madigan already released the House from session, so they already left and went home.
Well,
so
it could
we were just going through the maneuvers.
It could still come up in the House. It just would take a 60% vote, right?
How much you want to bet?
No, but hypothetically, theoretically.
Hypothetically, it could, and hypothetically, a lot of things could happen in the House. But this bill's not going to go anywhere. We're wasting a lot of time.
It was to show that, in defense of Senate President Cullerton, he could say it's to show that we want to do something. We put together a bipartisan piece of legislation. Yes, it only applied to two funds. Well, why did it only apply to two rather than five? He couldn't have gotten the votes. He couldn't have gotten the votes for all five funds.
That's right, and he couldn't have got the votes from his side of the aisle. And the only reason why he did this is to say he passed pension reform, and to try to market that as pension reform.
So you're saying, is it for the election? Is it for his? Is it for his members when they're running on November 6th? They can say, we supported pension reform legislation. We couldn't get the House to do it. That's what you're saying?
That's exactly what it's for.
And you're saying he should have spent real time trying to get all five funds covered and get it passed, and also spent real time trying to get Speaker Mike Madigan to agree with him, get Governor Pat Quinn to agree, have them sign it. That's your point.
Absolutely.
If you were king, that's what you would have done.
Absolutely, and that's what I said in debate. So, and that's what I was talking about, and that's why I said that this was a joke.
And to be fair here, if you were king and you were a Republican governor,
I would have done this a long time ago. I wanted to wait until the last day of session.
We're dealing with now. Even if you started earlier in the year, wouldn't you have trouble getting a lot of your fellow Republicans to support that change downstate Republicans who are not so big on pension reform, maybe some more of their constituents are government employees?
No.
No?
Because right now, the state of Illinois, we are backed up in a corner. We're so far in debt, we can't borrow any
So
money.
you're saying the Republicans can easily get the majority of Republicans, even more, to support major pension reform legislation?
Absolutely. Real pension reform, yes.
Okay.
So we've been down there. I've been down there
Okay.
for the past 4 years.
Well,
We've seen what we call ethics reforms. It doesn't reform anything. It actually gives Speaker Madigan more power, not less.
But-
These bills that they label one thing and does another, we don't want to support
But if
that.
it were all 5 funds, then you would say it's not a joke. Because
No,
that is
then that's
serious.
serious money. Then that's going to help.
And if it was all 5 funds, and would it have anything other than the COLA? If you were king, would you want anything other than the COLA modification in that legislation?
Yes.
What would you want?
I'd also want to cap the pensions, no
Okay.
double dipping,
No double dipping.
and raise the age of retirement.
Okay, and what would you, currently is the retirement age 55 or 62?
It's 50 to 55, depending on the
Okay.
plan and the program, and I would raise it to more of Social Security age,
Which would be,
65,
so
67.
you'd raise it from 50 to 55, which currently it is now, to 65.
To 65, 67, correct.
And you would do that for any employees right now, no matter, if somebody was 56, would you raise it for that person
Well,
too?
we would have to take a look at that, and there would be some
You
transition
might,
and some phase
okay.
in.
But
Right.
so you'd raise the retirement age. Would you also raise the employee contribution?
Yes,
From like 9% now, depending on the fund, to 12%, 3 or 4%.
absolutely.
And that wasn't that Governor Pat Quinn's proposal? Raise the employee contribution, raise the retirement age, modify the COLA. Wasn't that his proposal? He
That-
didn't have specific legislation, but to be fair, we try to be fair here,
Good.
you would agree with Pat Quinn that schematic of that legislation is something you would agree with.
Yes, I would. But here's the thing, is that what we need to do is bring everyone to the table and discuss these ideas. We need to bring the teachers and the other union members and everyone to the table to let them know what we're doing. Part of the problem
So you
is...
bring them to the table and
But
they
see-
say, we don't want to do it. We don't want to do it.
But at
and we
least
don't,
you-
and we
at
don't,
least-
and we don't got to do it because, we're unions and we're powerful
Right.
and we pay for at least a number of Democrats, maybe a few Republicans. Who's that guy? What's his name? The guy who was a superintendent of education Republican from downstate who's now retired and now is now hacking his way for one of the associations.
Yeah.
Can you think of his name?
I'll think of-
Rennie,
yeah,
something like that.
Ready.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So basically, the guy was not a Republican.
No, right.
I mean, he didn't agree with anything you've told us here today, right?
Well, he was, he had...
So there are Republicans like
special
that.
interest groups definitely invested
Right.
in him for a long time.
Right, and he was a superintendent, and he was feeding at the public trough at the same
Roger
time.
Eddy?
Roger Eddy. Wasn't he a superintendent as well as, so he was a guy getting big
as well as
pensions,
a-
getting big salaries on the education side, voting on it as a House member.
As well as a state representative, right?
Yeah, so no
Kind of a
conflict,
conflict
no
of interest
conflict
there.
there, right?
Right.
And Mr. Eddy, if you want to come on and defend yourself, come and tell us what association you're working for and how much money you're choking down now. What is it, $200,000 a year? What is he doing? Would you say he's like a major influence peddler?
I don't know what he's doing right
How do
now.
you sleep at night? I don't know. How does he sleep at night?
You're going to have to ask him.
Come on, Mr. Eddy. Come on the show and tell us, okay? All right, but the point is,
Yes.
he's a Republican. So you got
Yes.
some house cleaning to do. You can't just say, "Oh, the Republicans are pure and the
I'm
Democrats
not-
are bad guys."
I'm
You
not-
got some Republicans, and Mr. Eddy isn't the only one that you got to take care of. You may have trouble passing that pension reform if you were king and you were governor. Maybe not as much trouble as the Democrats because they have more people benefiting from union contributions, but still, you got some Republicans down there who aren't going to be gung-ho pension reform, right?
I work with.
I mean, fair is fair. We
I
gotta be
work-
fair
I
here,
work
right?
with the Democrats every day. The Democrats have helped me with all my bills. I work very closely with the Black and Latino caucuses. So, but see, that's not what's happening right now down in Springfield. People are not working together, and that's what we need to do. So it's not
So
just
you wanna
Republicans.
be bipartisan.
We
You
need
want-
to have a pension reform bill and meet with both sides of the aisle and meet with the unions and discuss with them what we're going to do. At least bring them into the conversation.
And then your point is that should be happening all
long
through the
time
year,
ago.
in
Oh,
May, in April,
absolutely.
in 2011.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't because why? Why doesn't it happen? Some would say, Speaker Matt Murphy said this on TV just the other night on Chicago Tonight. I always quote that program. I love quoting that. I mean, it's Carol Marine there with Matt Murphy, with Mike Noland.
Oh, Mike Noland.
And Lawrence Massal. And basically, Matt Murphy said, look, everybody knows Mike Madigan didn't want to pass this. He never wanted to pass that because of too much of a headache basically with the unions and contributions and his members. And so he's never serious about this. He wants to do it. It'll come up Matt Murphy said after the November 6th election.
That's right.
Did Matt Murphy get it right? Do you agree with him?
I agree with him on that. Yes, I do.
Come after November 6th, but you'll have lame ducks there who won't be accountable, and they may pass this and vote for this pension
Speaker
reform
Madigan
legislation.
is a very shrewd politician. He's a political mastermind, and there's no way that he was going to bring up a pension reform bill that was going to be so controversial right before a major
But
election.
to be fair, does Senate President John Cullerton want to bring it up? Is it just Mike Madigan that's blocking it, or is it because Madigan, as you said, Cullerton brought up this other thing which you were critical of as a joke.
Like I said, that's a farce.
So does Cullerton want to see this passed before November 6th, or would you put him in the same category as Mike Madigan?
Absolutely. He's Mike Madigan's right-hand man.
Does Illinois Republican House Leader, Minority Leader Tom Cross want to see it voted on by November 6th?
I believe so.
Even
He's
if
been
it had the
pushing
cost shift in there?
No.
He wouldn't.
No.
And why do you suppose he's so?
And again, I'm not
why is
speaking
he
for
so
him. I'm
against-
telling you what I think he
You
would
think he would? Yeah, he was. He doesn't want it coming up before November 6th if it has the cost shift. If it has the cost shift.
If it has the cost shift, why?
And what about
he wouldn't want to do it after.
Senate Republican Leader Redonio? She doesn't want it coming on.
I don't
after
think
it
that
has the
people-
cost shift.
I don't
She
think-
doesn't want the. They don't want the cost shift there ever.
Yes, I don't think
But
even
they
after they
But
would
they
want the
do
cost
think
shift.
it would be harmful to more Republicans than Democrats, the cost shift, because they are more prevalent upstate and in suburbs, and that's where the cost shift will negatively impact, right? So to be fair here, you have to say Redonio and Cross
There are a lot of
playing
hypotheticals.
politics. But they are playing
let me
politics
just
too,
say,
right?
No, not at all. They would want.
I mean,
they want
complaining about
a pension
politicians-
reform.
Complaining about politicians doing politics is a little bit like complaining about dogs for barking. That's what they do.
That's why I call myself elected official. not a
Right, but you are a politician. You have to do some politics, right?
public service, public servant. Look at what people want to do is they want to put through, as far as the Republicans that you mentioned that I know, do definitely want to put through pension reform.
But they
as
don't
soon
want
as
the cost
possible.
shift. They
not
worry about
the
the
cost
cost
shift
shift.
now, not the cost shift after the election. The cost shift is
They don't
going to
want the
raise
cost
everyone's
shift ever.
property taxes.
It was like paraphrasing George
That's right.
Wallace. Remember George Wallace?
That's right, correct.
Segregation now,
And
segregation
that's right. And
then,
people don't want
segregation
the-
forever.
people don't want the
So
cost
you'd say
shift.
no cost shifting now, no cost shifting
Right.
later, no cost
The
shifting
cost
forever.
shift will raise people's property taxes. People pay enough right now that their home values are going down and their property taxes are going up.
But shouldn't people
if you
look
put
at
the cost shift on it, it'll go up even
what's
more.
the difference
People
if you
don't
pay
want that.
if you pay for teachers the salaries from the school district, okay, and you pay for administrators your salaries, shouldn't you also pay for their pensions?
You don't take this bill of $83 billion that Speaker Madigan's been down there for 42 years. He's been Speaker for 30. He's been taking money from that fund and using that credit card for the past 42 years. And now he's going to come into people and tell them, oh, by the way, I spent all your money, I've used all that money, so now I'm going to take that and shift it back to you
No,
and,
but
and raise your property
you're saying
taxes.
that's maybe why not to do it now. But
do
you
you
just
think
told
that-
me Redonio and Cross don't want cost shifting ever.
I'm saying that's what I think. That's
well,
my
but
opinion. You're going to have to ask them.
Well,
But
okay, we've asked Leader Cross to come on, and we hope he would. We've asked Senate Republican Leader Redonio to come on. We hope she would, but they haven't. So you're the best I got, and you're saying they don't want it ever.
third place.
know.
So no, it's, you know what, I think it's a bad idea. I think they would probably think it's a bad idea too. I think all the people in the
But
state of
you would
Illinois that
agree-
pay
you
property
would-
taxes
you would
would
agree
think it's a
that
bad
no,
idea.
you would agree that if people pay the teachers' salaries, they should also probably pay the teachers' pensions, right?
They should have some skin in the game, definitely.
So you would agree.
I would agree that they need
And
some
you would
skin in
if
the
I have
game,
if I have
but I
what
would agree-
Redonio and Cross are saying, you would disagree with them. I mean, let's be fair.
I
You would
agree
disagree
that you
with
have
them.
to have some skin in the game, but you can't change the rules in the fourth quarter.
And you're saying
you have to
they're
have the rules
saying-
at the beginning.
And you're saying that's holding up major pension reform, even if I'm right in how I'm portraying it. It's unrelated. It's unrelated. That's your point.
But
It's
again,
unrelated.
Again, you're getting distracted with the head fakes that Mike Madigan is giving you.
It's a misdirection play.
It's a poison pill. He put the whole cost shift in there to kill the bill so that it wouldn't get any support. He knew that wasn't going to go through. He knew that the people weren't going to support that bill, but he had to make it look like in the final weeks of legislative session that he was working on some pension
So
reform.
Republicans should be out there.
He does this every year. He's been
You
doing
should
this for
be out
42
there
years.
on that slogan. Every Republican I hear should be talking about that, and they're not, right? If I go up to a person running for the state senate and I say something about cost shifting, the guy looks at me and says, "Cost shifting?" It's like he didn't even know what it means.
Right.
This is
Right.
the Republican Party.
Right.
Did you say the Republican
Well,
Party
you know
has a
who-
problem? It's just like change of subject, folks. Does the Republican Party have a problem? Because you've been given this major opportunity. Pension reform, you're saying, has just been killed by Speaker Mike Madigan. You're saying Senate President Cullerton goes along with this. You could run on that. You could presumably get a majority. Where is Treasurer Dan Rutherford now? Not to pick on Dan, but is he in like South Korea? I think he is. Shouldn't he be like in Southern Illinois?
Well, I think that he's working hard
In South
but
Korea?
But I think he will be back. Well, he's working on trade relations and all the rest, and
Is he
that's
treasurer?
and that's good.
Some people think he's running for the U.S. Senate. What do you think? You think?
No, I think he's
He's
working hard.
working
He's
hard.
trying to-
All right.
yeah.
So, but you're saying, but day to day, Treasurer Dan Rutherford is going hamlet to hamlet, as David Harris said they should do, and explaining what you're just saying. Increase the employee contribution, increase the retirement age, modify the COLA, get that done now, and don't screw around with costs.
That's right.
You're
And
saying,
bring people to the table so that
and you're
they
saying
know what's happening.
Kirk Dillard's doing that because he's a statewide guy having run for governor, and you're saying Bill Brady's doing that. All Republicans are on the same page, and they're all hammering this. And if they do it right, you're going to win the majority in the state Senate, and you're going to win the majority in the House on this issue, unless Mike Madigan and John Cullerton change. Did I get that right?
Sounds good to me.
That's an idea, though. Seriously.
It is a great idea, and that's
I'm
the
not
message.
partisan. I'm just saying, if I were a Republican, that's what I would do, and if I were a
Right.
Democrat, I would be afraid of that. Except if I were a Democrat in Illinois, I would know that Republicans in Illinois never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity.
That's right.
That's
Yeah.
right. They never miss an opportunity to
That's
miss an
right.
opportunity.
I agree with that.
Yeah, but you're going to change that. So one day you're going to be governor. Would you say?
I would not say that's something that I'm interested in doing right
You
now.
would, but you would think about that. You would like to be governor because we started this conversation. What would you do to be king? And this is what's necessary. You need to be governor to make these changes, right? I mean, let's not be modest here. This is what you'd like to do: is be governor of the state of Illinois.
No, I never said I'd like to be governor.
know,
of the state.
but
I
I'm
would
asking you
I would
that
like to
now.
continue
Okay.
to help any way I can, but whether that's governor or state senator, I think I'm doing a lot and working as hard as I can right now as state senator.
Education. Does education need some work?
Education in the state of Illinois.
We just finished. Change the subject. We've cured the pension reform problem. You reform Medicaid. Would you say Medicaid is now cured and fixed and okay?
I
We'll
said,
come back to education in a second.
okay, I think that we are moving in the right direction on Medicaid. I think that there's a lot we need to do. We've already implemented some laws such as asset verification and passive redetermination. Let's just look at those two things right there. Asset verification. So right now, people in the state of Illinois receive Medicaid benefits even though they might have multiple homes or multiple cars or boats.
So
in
we're going to
other
ask people
locations
to verify
their assets. Now,
and verify their income. We got to be quick.
right, we said we wanted to do that, but we're not
Hasn't
following
happened
through.
yet.
We're not following through with that. We said that we're
So
going to.
Julie Hamos is director of whatever the whole program and oversees the Medicaid
right,
budget.
right.
Julie should be responsible. We're coming here. If I ask Julie if it's happening, what's she going to tell me? She's an honest person. Would she say it's not happening, but she would like to see it happen?
I think she would say that they're not enforcing that at all.
But do you think Julie would like to enforce that?
I don't know if she would or she wouldn't. You'd have to, I'd be
Well,
interested to
that's
know if
good.
she would or she
Julie,
wouldn't.
come on the show and clarify
Yeah.
that. We only have a few minutes
they're not
left.
enforcing it.
We're going to continue to speak as the credits roll, but I very much want to thank our guest, State Senator Dan Murphy, and thank you so much.
Dan Duffy.
It's
Two Irish
I'm
guys. We all sound
conflating
like-
Matt Murphy and Dan Duffy. They're going to merge when they run for governor, both of them.
That's right.
It's going to be Dan Murphy.
That would be a scary
All right,
situation.
so Dan Duffy,
yes.
in a minute or so,
Yes.
if you wanted to fix education in the state of Illinois, would you adopt school vouchers, school choice?
Absolutely. I'm 100% for school vouchers.
And this
school
guy here,
choice.
Milton Friedman, Capitalism and
Yes.
Freedom, right here.
Yeah.
You've
Absolutely.
read this book already?
No, I have not.
All right. You're going to read it?
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right. School vouchers, school
School
choice.
vouchers,
you would
school choice.
voucherize the state of Illinois.
Absolutely. People should have the option to have the choice on which school to send their kids.
And you'd have more charter schools.
I would definitely have more charter schools. I would lift the limit on charter schools right now. I actually.
Would you take the $15,000 that people get Chicago public schools implicitly and say, here's $15,000, spend it at the